Welcome everyone to the Book to Action 2021 series. This event is Where's the Action? Thriving Immigrant Collaborative Panel. For more information on any of the programs in the Book to Action series, please visit santacruzpl.org and view our calendar. Live interpretation is available this evening, so please expect pauses throughout the program. This event is also being recorded. If you have a question, please click on the Q&A icon. If you have a question for a specific panelist, please type their name in ahead of your question. Down on the bottom of your Zoom control panel, you'll see audio settings in the lower left corner. You'll see a Q&A icon and then leave in a red rectangle. If you're viewing this on a mobile device, everything will be in reverse, so your Zoom control bar will be up at the top. To listen to this program in Spanish, select Interpretation from the Zoom control bar and then check Spanish. To mute the original audio provided in English, check Mute Original Audio. I'm now going to turn things over to Diane Cowan with the Santa Cruz Public Libraries to get started. Diane, over to you.
Thank you. I'm Diane Cowan, and I'm a librarian at the Santa Cruz Public Libraries. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. For those of you who don't know about the Thriving Immigrants Collaborative, I'd like to tell you a little bit about it. It's an alliance of organizations that advocate for and provide direct services to immigrants in the community. They really want our immigrants in the community to feel welcomed and be supported and thrive. So I encourage all of you to attend their events and get involved with their work as we start putting the action into the Book to Action program. So I'm very pleased to introduce Paulina Moreno. She is the Director of Special Projects at CAB, including the Thriving Immigrants Collaborative.
Thank you so much, Diane. I appreciate the introduction and the opportunity to join you all this afternoon, along with my colleagues here who will also be sharing with you information about the work that the Thriving Immigrants Collaborative and Community Action Board have been doing for the last year, and also share with you an opportunity of how you can get involved. So I just wanted to share, Diane provided a brief context for who we are as the Thriving Immigrants Collaborative. And really, we exist to enhance the quality of life and advance the rights of our immigrant community, and leverage the individual and collective work of our founding members to best accomplish this mission. The TIC Steering Committee, we began meeting bi-monthly in 2018 to discuss emerging needs and opportunities within the immigrant community, immigration law and policy updates, interagency referrals, and to design a 2-year strategic plan to guide our work. Our priorities align with a lot of the core funding models. And really, I wanted to just give you, in terms of who we are as our steering committee, some of the members include, Community Action Board of Santa Cruz County, Catholic Charities, Community Bridges, Community Information Center for Migrant Assistance, CIMA, the City of Watsonville, Monarch Services, Pájaro Valley Prevention and Student Assistance, Pájaro Valley Rapid Response, Salud para la Gente, and Watsonville Law Center. Those were really some of the core members that helped create the Thriving Immigrants Collaborative. But now, as we have been in existence for a little bit over 2 years, it has been a collective effort of all organizations, volunteers, and people who are working to advance the rights of immigrants in our county and in the Central Coast. Before we get started, I wanted to provide just a little bit of context in terms of what does immigration look like in California? Unfortunately, I don't have that many details in terms of what it looks like here specifically in Santa Cruz County, but I think it's important to always set the context for to help inform some of the work that drives our existence. And so for those of you that may not know, California is home to an estimated 2 to 3.1 million individuals who are undocumented. That makes up approximately 6% of the state's population. And because we don't have specific data, there's an estimate that 21,000 undocumented immigrants are in Santa Cruz County, which is about 8.2%. And these are workers, parents, children, family members, many of whom are US born citizens, and of course are deeply integrated into our communities and are vital to the state's economy. California's undocumented workers have been especially hit hard by the economic effects of the COVID-19 crisis. They've been working in jobs that cannot be done remotely, and a large share work in service industries immediately hit hard by COVID-19. About 1 in 3 undocumented workers in California are employed in an industry that has been immediately affected by COVID, by the economic shutdown, such as food service, childcare, building services like janitorial services, or landscaping. And of these undocumented workers, most impacted in these industries, an estimated 40% are parents. This is estimated 90% of these parents live with children who are US citizens. One of the things, that from a report that recently came out in January of 2021 through the Migration Policy Institute, which is a nonprofit think tank in Washington, DC, reported that 9.3 million unauthorized immigrants whose income meet the threshold for COVID aid were blocked from accessing it. And were not eligible to receive any of the federal programs such as cash or any food assistance. And it reported that the report reported that undocumented people represent more than half of the workers in the hardest hit industries. And unfortunately, what we saw with the last administration, that many people were left out and blocked from receiving any type of aid. And I share all of this information with you all because I think, again, it's important to set the context for who are the communities that we are serving and that have been largely disproportionately impacted because of the crisis. I'm going to turn over to my colleague, Kate, who's going to talk a little bit more and give us an update on some of the immigration updates. So I'll turn it over to you, Kate.
Thank you so much, Paulina. My name is Kate Hinnenkamp. I am the Interim Program Director at the Community Action Board's Santa Cruz County Immigration Project. And we are a part of CAB. We've been serving the community for over 30 years, providing immigration legal services and public education and outreach like we're doing right now. So Paulina shared with you some of the kind of intense statistics about some challenges facing immigrants, or that immigrants have faced over the past year. And certainly we've seen under the former administration in Washington, we saw some other challenges that were generated through the policy. So I'm hoping that what I have to share with you today is some good news. So just to tell you a little bit more about our immigration project, we provide a number of different immigration legal services, including green card renewals, work permit renewals, DACA applications and DACA renewals, citizenship applications, family-based petitions, where someone who's a US citizen or a legal permanent resident can petition other family members for residency. We do cases under the Violence Against Women Act, which is if somebody is a survivor of domestic violence, they may be eligible. Also temporary protected status for people from certain countries who are eligible for that. And U visas or T visas for people who have been victims of crimes. We don't currently do asylum or deportation defense services. And our services can be accessed by phone. I'll put it in the chat in a moment, but our phone number is 831-724-5667. And that's the best way for people to find out more about how to get our services. So some immigration updates, what's new? One of the biggest things you've probably been hearing in the news is about DACA. Over the Trump administration, there were a lot of ups and downs, and DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival. It's a discretionary immigration policy to grant temporary 2-year renewable work permits, social security numbers, and protection from deportation to qualifying applicants who arrived in the US under age 16 and who meet other eligibility criteria. So DACA was recently restored to its original form by a court order just back in December of 2020. And the Biden administration has reaffirmed DACA to protect it from a pending lawsuit, because during the Trump years, there was a lot of back and forth where Trump was attempting to end the program. The court said, well, you have to go through a certain process. They hadn't gone through that process. So could people apply for DACA? Could they not? Could they renew it? Could they not? There was a lot of back and forth. But at this point, the Biden administration is sustaining DACA, but not planning to expand it outside of the original criteria. But the good news is new first-time applications are being accepted. And so for folks who over the last 3 or 4 years have not been able to apply, even though they were eligible, now they can apply. Also, DACA recipients can apply for advanced parole to travel outside of the US, which they couldn't do for that same time period. Got some statistics about DACA, but I don't want to take up too much time. I also want to let you know about public charge. On March 9th, and public charge, let's see, I want to give you the definition of what public charge is. Basically, it is a test that all people who are applying for residency in the US have to pass to show that they are not likely to become dependent on the government for subsistence. And there was a lot of back and forth also under Trump with this. But now the rules have gone back both through court orders and through action on the Biden administration so that people can use public benefits that they qualify for. So if they're eligible for CalFresh, food stamps, Medi-Cal, health insurance, housing benefits, all of those things, people can use those benefits without fear that it's going to impact their future immigration possibilities. A couple other things that our directing attorney, Matt Weisner, wanted to share, that a few controversial rulings that have been vacated under the new attorney general, restoring the possibility of asylum protections for women fleeing domestic violence in other countries and families who are targeted by violent gangs. And so now those folks have better odds at getting asylum in the US. And then the last thing regarding U visas. A U visa is if someone has been a victim of a serious crime, in order that they're able to stay in the US, testify, and sort of receive protection for having reported the crime and been assisted in solving the crime. It's a pathway to permanent residency for victims of serious crimes who cooperate with law enforcement. So now people who are eligible for U visas in some cases can, while their cases are pending, which takes a decade long, they are in some cases able to get work permits. And so that's a really good news. They may not ever get permanent residency through the U visa process. Maybe they will, but while they're waiting, they can get a work permit similar to what a DACA recipient could get. So lots of other information that we could share, but those are just some updates and some hopeful changes that have happened since January.
Thank you, Kate. Maria, we're gonna turn it over to Maria.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Paulina. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. Hi, my name is Maria. Buenas tardes. My name is Maria Rodriguez. I am the Employment Programs Director for the Day Worker Center, and I'm here to talk about it today. So the Day Worker Center is located in Santa Cruz on 7th Avenue by the Dominican Hospital. Our main goal of this Day Worker Center is to facilitate job matches for day workers Day workers are individuals soliciting work on the streets or at the home improvement stores. They're looking for transitional employment. In order for individuals to qualify for our program, we do not have an eligibility process. We have an honor system for eligibility. We do not verify social security number, ID, or addresses. We trust the person coming into our center, walking in to asking for support. We do have a pay scale for our day workers. You know, the pay scale is it is put together by the day worker community, our membership. Our minimum wage for our day worker job dispatching is $18 an hour, and it can also go up to $35, you know, per hour, depending on the skill level, and the day worker has their own tools. So there is no fee for services. Everything's free at our office. And we also offer work ethics opportunities for our day worker community so they can enrich the skill set. So when they actually get dispatched to jobs, they are actually able to present themselves and be able to complete the jobs. We're also providing ESL classes to support communication with employers. Majority of our employers are English speakers, but we also have some Spanish speakers. So we want to make sure that we maximize the communication and opportunity for our day workers. We also offer advocacy to address issues impacting our day worker community, as one of them can be the wage theft and also any other issues that they may have. And we offer leadership opportunities. We have a committee and a general assembly, which is composed of day workers, you know, who are supporting the day worker center staff with led activities to support anything that we are doing, from outreach to providing training for our day workers. Since COVID was impacting our program, our program shifted, and we actually went from doing a lot of the job matches. We were making about 700 job matches per month before COVID. And since COVID was impacted a year ago, we went from 700 job matches to 0 job matches. A year ago in July, we're making probably 5 job matches a month. So it was a huge deal. So we shifted our programming. We went into not just only doing employment services, but also doing food distribution, rental assistance, offering stipends for any activities that they were connected with. We also offer community engagement opportunities. We are really hopeful that as COVID is lifting up, we are able to support Day on the Beach, Dia de Muertos. We also, our day workers, are committed to doing volunteer hours at the Holy Cross Cemetery. They all volunteer to put in about 11 hours a week to be able to clean the cemetery. More than anything, we offer a safe space for day workers to gather and connect with one another and don't have to worry about being on the sun or being on a rainy day. They have a space that has a heater, is warm, they have coffee. They are actually a very safe space. We also support their parenting. Some of them are parents. We offer parenting classes, financial literacy, so they can manage the budget, and meet their goals. We offer family gatherings as well, so they can connect with other families and be able to establish relationships. So our program, our staff, our center is open from Tuesday to Saturday, from 7:30 to 2 o'clock for our community to call in and register as day workers, and also for our employer network to call in and request any day workers to support their jobs, their tasks at home. Our employers are people just like you and I, like anybody, our next door neighbor. It's literally anyone that has, the need for extra support at home or in their business. They can hire day workers for the day. We have a 4-hour minimum to be able to hire a day worker at the $18 an hour. We do have females and males who have been registered in the program. And we do from home cleaning, house cleaning, to gardening, landscaping, painting, different tasks. So like I mentioned, our office hours are Tuesday through Saturday, and people can call our main number for them to reach out to request a day worker. And I will go ahead and post our phone number and our website for individuals to call and register. Thank you, Paulina.
Thank you, Maria. I'm going to turn it over to Edgar.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Edgar Landeros. I'm the program manager for Nueva Vista Community Resources. I am part of the center. It's part of Community Bridges Family Resource Collective. And over the course of the pandemic, through the Family Resource Collective, I mean, we mostly, our services are very diverse, but, you know, we strive to help families make it through the pandemic. One of the services that we offer across all of our sites is our food pantry. So during the pandemic, we actually expanded our distribution dates and times to help families feed, you know, to make ends meet, feed their families. In addition, we also expanded, added a new service that we hadn't before, and that was rental assistance. A lot of our families, as we've heard through the partners, you know, they lost their employment during the pandemic, and rent, you know, some landlords wanted to get paid and whatnot. So for our families, you know, we expanded to offer this service of rental assistance through DocuFund Monterey, as well as other private funding that we were able to leverage. And of course, as part of that, the fund leveraging, we were also able to provide additional food cards, Safeway food cards for families to be able to go buy groceries and whatnot. You know, we also, we kind of ramped up our counseling services for families. You know, during a difficult time, everyone, you know, was going through. The counseling services were there, but most importantly, through the Family Resource Collective, we set up protocols to be able to keep our doors open and be there for our communities that we serve. We never closed up our doors, and we actually were able to help many families have access to information of what was going on in our community. So, for instance, for those families with citizen children, you know, we were able to help them access CalFresh benefits, as well as we simply just provided any kind of service that they needed. So even now, after we're coming out of this pandemic and things are starting to look a little bit better, we're still offering our services. We're helping families. We have parent education classes through the Triple P program, and we're still continuing to help them in any shape or form, as well as make the proper referrals to our partners, such as Santa Cruz Immigration Project or anything else that they may need. But yeah, that's just a little bit of a highlight of the work that we did during the pandemic.
Thank you, Edgar. And I'm going to turn it over to Ellen.
Thank you, Paulina. I'm Ellen Murtha. I'm a volunteer with Santa Cruz Welcoming Network. I have to say, I'm really impressed listening to all of these wonderful programs that are available. We're a little different because we're all volunteers, and we're open to anybody helping us assist asylum seekers. I just want you to imagine for a moment having to flee violence in your own country, grabbing your kids and what food you have in the house that you can carry with you, and coming north and getting to the border and being stopped and not let in, and having the US take your children and leave you there in Mexico, which is still a foreign country to you. You came through it, but you weren't from there. And finally, you convince someone that you have an uncle who will sponsor you, and they let you come here, and you get reunited with your kids, thank God. And you have nothing, and you don't speak the language. And you're not sure how to deal with your request to get a clear immigration status. That's where we come in. We're just volunteers, but we actually listen to what the asylum seekers are asking for and try and connect them to community resources that will help them meet their needs. So for example, the person I was talking about, her uncle did take her in. He was sponsoring her in a mobile home with 3 other people. And so it was not really possible for her to stay. And through the good graces of a church community, a church collaborative, housing was found. And through the generous contribution of the homeowner, this person was able to rent part of the house for her and her children. And one of the things that the Welcoming Network does is connect this person to the kinds of things she wanted. She wanted her kids to be enrolled in school. And that was actually very easy because as asylum seekers, they get to sort of cut through the red tape to get kids in school. So her boys got in school right away. She had a medical condition and it was made worse by the ankle monitor that they put on her. And once we were able to show that her kids were in school and she was in housing, one of our volunteers wrote a letter to the ICE to get her ankle monitor removed. Another volunteer helped her enroll in health insurance. So, and a third person helped with the family by picking up food from the food banks. And so we work as a team. And we have sort of one person that sort of coordinates all of our efforts. Because we're so energetic as team members, we could be a little overwhelming, especially if you think of the language issues, the dislocation, the trauma that's underlying them getting here. So we are very respectful and really follow their lead and what they need. People can find out more about us by emailing to santacruzwelcome@gmail.com. And also they can look at a website, again, put up by volunteers. There's not a lot of information there, but you can take a look, santacruzwelcomingnetwork.com. And I just want to say, we do work as a team, so we support each other in finding the best resources and working closely with these families and these individuals that have come here fleeing violence for everything this country is supposed to be for, the promise of safety and self-fulfillment and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. It might mean that we are talking together on the phone, but we also have a monthly meeting by Zoom, the 3rd Tuesday of every month. And our biggest need is for housing. As everybody knows here in Santa Cruz County, housing is problematic. There's not enough of it. It's too expensive. But we've been very successful in finding host homes, people that have an extra room in their house, people that have a floor in their house that they're not using, houses that are temporarily vacant, ADUs, other things that are acceptable housing, and allow these families to be safe and be together. So we're looking for any suggestions and ideas. You can send them by email again to the santacruzwelcome@gmail.com. We are also, of course, always raising funds because we help with things like utilities for host homes, some rent, medical needs that aren't paid for by benefits, other things. And all of our funding is by private donations. We have no federal or state or county funding. We're just a group of volunteers wanting to do good, and I hope you want to join us. People can donate through our website. PayPal is the easiest by going to santacruzwelcomingnetwork.com. But also people can write checks if they're not willing to do PayPal. We can accept checks to 311 Darwin Street, Santa Cruz 95062. And if people want to make a significant contribution, we have a fiscal sponsor through the Hub for Sustainable Living and Santa Cruz Sanctuary, and they can make a donation and it'll be tax deductible. We're so small as Welcoming Network, we don't have our own 501c3, unlike CAB. We just started out a couple years ago, but I have to tell you, the success that we experience when we see people become self-sufficient. For the example I was telling you about, this person is actually an amazing seamstress and also a great cook. And she has been able to be able to help provide for her own family through those efforts. You know, I can imagine her being a great person for the Day Worker Center. If someone wanted some specialty sewing done or some specialty cooking. We do, of course, stand by them while they're going through the immigration process, which, as someone mentioned, can be very lengthy. And of course, we're hoping to accelerate those through our advocacy. We're lucky to have a couple of retired lawyers volunteering with us, and it's fantastic. There's just not enough. We wish there was more free or low cost legal services, but we're not all lawyers. You know, sometimes it's just going to the food pantry and picking up food. And so we welcome everybody to find out more about us and join us. One of my fun things to think about is we have a book club that has taken on a family, their team, and they already know each other because they've been in the book club for years. And they're working with us to help this family. And they're relying on us to help connect them to the community resources that this family needs. So we're open to all kinds of volunteers, you know, faith-based communities, other kinds of groups. Please let us know who you are. Email us at santacruzwelcome@gmail.com. Thank you, Paulina.
Thank you so much, Ellen. The Welcoming Network has been doing some amazing work. I know it started as a small group. I remember going to some of the first meetings at one of the churches in Santa Cruz, and it's slowly been growing. And as Ellen mentioned, you know, the work that they are doing specifically to welcome some of the refugee families or individuals that are getting placed here in Santa Cruz County is vital. There aren't enough representation or resources, oftentimes because of their immigration status and because of the barriers that are placed on them, they're ineligible to work. And therefore, you know, it takes community volunteers. It really does take a community to be able to respond to the need, right? Because as we've seen, and as Alan has mentioned, it really has become a need. And so I encourage you all, you know, part of today's session, in addition to learning about who are some of the organizations doing work to serve the immigrant community in our county, is to also hopefully encourage you to join some efforts and be encouraged to be part of whether it's, you know, through the Welcoming Network, who we also consider part of the larger collaborative, to volunteer in any of the centers. One of the things that I didn't mention earlier, and I wanted to just give you, because I think our director has joined our presentation, is, you know, we recently, in last couple of months, we did a community assessment survey where really we're surveying our community to understand what are the impacts of poverty and what are the emerging and higher needs. And it should be of no surprise that, you know, housing and food were at the top of the list in terms of what are the biggest needs that families, that individuals experiencing poverty in Santa Cruz County, the biggest needs, right? And as a response to some of that, you know, I wanted to share that for those that may not be aware, you know, last year, California became the first state to launch a disaster relief assistance effort by the state of California to issue some type of relief to the undocumented community. This was really a historic effort by the governor that, of course, couldn't have happened without advocacy, without bringing to attention the needs and how our community was really blocked from receiving any type of aid, even though, they contribute. They were working in some of the, made up the majority percentage of essential workers, have US citizen children, pay taxes, were blocked from receiving any type of COVID relief aid. And so as a result, last year, California launched what they called the disaster relief assistance, and Community Action was selected as one of the 12 organizations who administered this relief. If you can remember from what I shared earlier, there are about 2 million plus undocumented immigrants in California. This aid aimed to provide $500 of assistance to 150,000 Californians. That is such a small drop in the bucket, but nonetheless, it was the beginning of a larger conversation about what does recovery efforts look like for the immigrant community, both documented and undocumented. And here with Community Action, we were tasked with making sure that relief went out to 4,500 individuals in the Central Coast. That was Santa Cruz, Monterey, San Benito, and San Luis Obispo counties. And really, just to give you an idea of what the need is, the program launched, we had 6 weeks to get out the funding, and the program launched on a Monday on May 18th. And that day we received 30,000 calls in 1 hour, making our entire system drop. We were inoperable for like almost a day and a half because our system was not set up to get that many calls. 30,000 calls in 1 hour. That is what the reality in terms of the need in our community looks like. And so I wanted to share a little bit about what that response has looked like and what has been some of the really concerted efforts of working with our community foundation, of getting donations from people like yourselves that have contributed to an emergency relief assistance effort that provides what we internally call no barrier, low barrier assistance. And I just wanted to share a little bit of those statistics because I think it's important. And again, it doesn't begin to scratch the surface of what the larger need is. Since March of last year, when the state went into its shutdown, we've been able to provide through this no barrier, low barrier assistance to over 300 people with, unfortunately, a one-time assistance of up to $1,500. And this is for rent, right? This is for rent, and we've been able to expand it to include utilities. But, and as I'm sure you are aware of, as a result, there have been developments of new programs that have been established to provide rental assistance to individuals impacted by COVID. However, those systems at the core are very inequitable. What we've learned through those systems, CAB is one of those agencies that has been tasked with providing support to those individuals that need rental assistance support as a result of a COVID impact through the state of California. And what we're seeing is that, the majority of our community is ineligible. The applications are extremely long. The requirements to be eligible for these systems are ridiculous. The fact that our community becomes ineligible because they cannot prove they owe rent, because they've been taking out loans through their neighbors, through their relatives in order to not face eviction. It's been extremely difficult. And so when we think about, what does the advocacy piece look like? those are some of the things that we want to encourage and open up the conversation for, in terms of so much room for advocacy, and making sure that those systems, while on paper sound and are meant to address a gap, in reality are fundamentally inequitable and are fundamentally creating barriers of access to the people that need it most. And so I wanted to just mention that, because one of the things that we try to do through the Thriving Immigrants Collaborative, we've organized a couple of community conversations where we invite legislators, where we invite our elected officials, and really try to form a base around advocacy. Because at the core, we understand that it's nothing happens without direct advocacy and with direct engagement. And so I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Kate, who I know is going to talk a little bit more about her thoughts around how do people get involved, and any other thoughts that you may want to share, Kate, in terms of lessons that we've learned that we can share with people.
Thank you, Paulina. And again, I'm Kate Hinnenkamp. I'm the interim program director of the Community Action Board Immigration Project. So in terms of lessons learned and kind of what are the key tools needed to be able to serve the immigrant community, a few things come up for me. The biggest one probably is flexibility, right? I mean, I think we've all learned that over the past year, that you never know what's going to happen next. And so just being open to the possibility of dealing with whatever happens and being ready for it. The other one, and I think you've heard all of our panelists, this has come through loud and clear, is compassion. Immigrants, for every immigrant in this country, there's a different story of how people got here and why they came here and what challenges they're facing. And so we have to greet them and welcome them in with compassion. Another thing that comes up is patience. A few people have talked about the length, for those people who are eligible or potentially eligible for some kind of immigration process, it takes a long time. There's a lot of hoops to jump through. There's no guarantees. It takes a long time. And so we have to have patience, model patience for the people we're helping. At the same time, we don't want to have too much patience, right? I mean, there's times when our patience runs out. And so we have to, as Paulina is talking about advocacy, there's times where we have to say, no, we can't wait any longer, and something needs to go differently. And then I think the last thing is just open-mindedness. I would invite everyone on this call to challenge your notion of who is an immigrant. What does an immigrant look like? There are, like I said, as many stories as there are people who have come to this country. And what do people need? Maybe it's what we think, or maybe it's not. And of course, the only way to know that is to ask and then listen to the answer. In terms of specific ways that people can get involved, I think we've heard both through the Welcoming Network, and I know through Community Bridges, through CAB, through the Day Worker Center, through the Immigration Project, there's lots of opportunities to volunteer. There's certainly opportunities to give financially if you'd like to make donations. So strongly encourage that. And I think another thing is just becoming an ally, right? I mean, I'm really moved by Ellen's story of, how different people in the community have just stepped up and saw a need and acted. And I think connected to that, I mean, all of us, Paulina shared statistics of how many immigrants are in our county, how many both documented and undocumented immigrants. I come across people and talking to them that they have the idea that nobody they know is an undocumented immigrant. I don't think you could live in Santa Cruz County and not know somebody who's an undocumented immigrant. And a lot of that has to do with that they might not look like what you think like. Maybe they're from Mexico, maybe they're from somewhere else. Maybe they are a day worker, Maybe they are, you know, somebody who was trained as a surgeon or an engineer. You really don't know. And and I think being an ally, questioning those notions, and then speaking up when you hear something in conversation that you know is not true, when you hear people perpetuating stereotypes or perpetuating misinformation that immigrants don't pay taxes, that immigrants, you know, are mostly criminals, that immigrants, all these things that we hear that we know are not true, push back, right? And question that. And I think that would make a big difference. I think we saw it with DACA when young people who are undocumented were brave enough to come forward and say, hey, this is my situation. All of a sudden people said, whoa, you don't look like, you know, what I thought was a undocumented immigrant. It's, you know, you're somebody in my son's soccer team. You're my next door neighbor. And I think that started to shift people's opinion about, you know, that category of immigrants. And I think the more that we push back on those notions and speak out, I think that public opinion is shifting and it will continue to shift. And I think, you know, if comprehensive immigration reform doesn't happen this year, it will happen.
Thank you, Kate. I don't know if people have any questions. I haven't seen any questions come in through the chat, but I wanted to also open it up to any of the other panelists to share any ways that people can get involved or lessons that you've learned that you'd like to share.
I just want to echo what Kate said about finding our voice. You know, this is an amazing time right now with President Biden. You know, we had 4 terrible years, but now we have this opportunity to be heard. I don't know how much good it does, but I frequently just pick up my cell phone and email the White House. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing that. We need more of that. I know that there's more organized ways of advocating, but this is really the time to do it. You know, we really almost in the last administration suffered terrible blows, you know, to our community. We just can't let that happen. So we need to take this moment now to speak up for all of the people that are in our community. We're all here in this together. So I just want to encourage people to find their voice.
Yeah, I can go next. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I wanted to say, as I mentioned earlier, for the Day Worker Center, we experienced a lot of jobs lost, you know, with the COVID and the Santa Cruz fires. So I would like to invite you, the community, and to hire day workers, you know, for any special projects that you have at home, cleaning your house, gardening. Our families are facing challenging times at the moment with our economy. It's starting to open up, but a lot of our families that were hiring day workers were impacted by the fires. You know, they lost their landscaping, they lost their businesses, you know, so it's making it still very difficult. We're not really quite there as we were prior to the pandemic. We are still coming in with 25 job matches per week. Compare, you know, that's like about 100, 120 a month, you know, compared to 700 job matches. I also wanted to invite our community, if you have a special skill set, trade, or, you know, that you feel like you would be able to give back to our day worker community, I invite you to get engaged, you know, call us if you want to do some volunteer hours as well. Donations are really great. As I mentioned earlier, you know, our day workers are struggling to meet ends meet at home with their kids and families pay rent. Donations can support our day worker community to help them pay for rent, pay for their car insurance, buy shoes to go to work. Also, in some cases, our client assistance has been able to support our day workers with funeral expenses. And also for those who have been impacted with the health condition, coronavirus or anything else, you know, or having to stay home because they have children and the distance learning, you know, that they do not have childcare. So, you know, so having donations coming through to the Day Worker Center also help us to be able to support those day workers on a consistent basis. And I just want to say, our day work community takes pride in the work that they do. So they are always looking forward to getting phone calls and getting jobs. Or if you know a day worker, someone who's looking for day jobs, for whatever the reason may be, send them to our program. As I mentioned earlier, we are offering a safe space for them to be able to connect with other day workers. A lot of our immigrant community are majority of day workers, they're from all over the world. They're not just from Mexico. We have people from El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua. We have people from China. We have people from Iran. We have people from Europe. So we have people from all over. And a lot of those individuals are here with no other family members. So the day worker community really helps there as an emotional support system. So if you know of any of them that are looking for engagement, please send them to our program. We just hire someone to help us to increase our membership. A lot of our day workers, through the COVID impact and Santa Cruz fires, and the distance learning, they kind of disappear from the system, and we're trying to engage them back. So please help us hire a day worker to help you clean your home, do landscaping. If you don't need it, if you have a next door neighbor who needs it, let us know. We will be more than happy to accept the phone calls. And you don't have to call the office specific hours. You can also file and hire a day worker online. In the middle of the night, just go online and submit your work order, and somebody else will call you the next day. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And thank you for the questions. I know we have a couple of minutes left, but some of the colleagues in the chat, in the panel, have been answering some of the questions. And just there continue to be financial resources available to support with rent. You can either, I put the phone number for CAB's rental assistance program. If people are not eligible through the rental assistance program, again, as I mentioned before, there are a lot of different eligibility requirements for different programs. And unfortunately, we don't get to set the parameters around that, but we do work our hardest to advocate to change those systems. And the rental assistance program continues to be a resource for CAB. If someone is not eligible through a rental assistance program, then we assess them for the other type of assistance, which is the one that requires almost nothing to receive assistance other than they must be undocumented. And then there are the state COVID emergency assistance that continues to be in existence. Most recently, the state actually heard the feedback in terms of how difficult and lengthy the application is. And so they decided to make some changes to the application, require less documentation. People can apply on their own, or they can go to Community Bridges or CAB to receive assistance in submitting the application. And I think a lot of people are answering questions. There are definitely lots of books and studies. I want to reference a partnership that we currently have with UC Santa Cruz with Dr. Steve McKay and Dr. Leslie Lopez, who we are working together. We've been working with them on several projects. If you don't know about their work, they are the professors that have been working on projects that have focused on housing disparities in Santa Cruz County called No Place Like Home. They also worked on a wage research that focused on low wage workers in Santa Cruz County and to advocate for change. That is called, I can't remember the name of that study. So if somebody remembers, put it in the chat. But most recently, we're actually working with them. They have started working on a project called We Belong, which is really a research project focused on mixed status families in Santa Cruz County. As I mentioned before, data on the undocumented community is not readily available. As you can imagine, these are community members that have been trying to live under the radar. And so as a result, we don't have a lot of data to support what we know are the needs, what we know are their stories. And so I want to, just put a plug in for the We Belong project, because they're currently collecting and doing surveys in the community to understand the experiences of mixed status families in Santa Cruz County. And the beauty of working with the university is the opportunity to learn and to share that research for advocacy and policy change. And so I will put the link in terms of what their project, and I will also share, I want to encourage all of you that if you are interested in receiving our newsletters through the Thriving Immigrants Collaborative, we don't send, you don't have to worry, we don't send too many, but we do send occasional newsletters with opportunities to advocate. We most recently had a meeting with our Congressman Panetta, and these are all opportunities that you can join us, that you can share the stories of the people that you serve, or bring them to have our representatives hear from the mouths of the people that are in most need. And so, and there's also just events that we have, and I will add Thriving Immigrants. It's pretty long, I apologize, collab. So if you want to be added to our listserv, stay up to date in terms of our advocacy efforts, join our community conversations, join us in advocacy, please send us an email so that we can add you, and you can be part of the growing list of advocates and allies working to improve the lives of immigrants in Santa Cruz County. And I think we're at time. So I don't know, Diane, if you needed to make an announcement, I'll turn it over to you. No, Diane? Oh.
Well, on behalf of the Santa Cruz Public Libraries, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. Thank you so much. If you have any questions about the Book to Action program, or for more information, or to register for the remaining events, please visit santacruzpl.org/pages/book-to-action.
And this is Diane, and I am here. Sorry, I was having a little problem with my video. Thank you.
I just want to thank the library, the Santa Cruz Public Library, for doing these programs and giving us this opportunity to reach out to people and for people to learn more about what's happening that's good in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really glad that we were able to do this. And I want to thank all of you, our panelists. That was such an amazing and interesting presentation. And I'm excited now about all the different ways that myself and other people can get involved. I just really want to encourage everybody here to, if you have not already done so, read Jose Antonio Vargas's book, Dear America, which is the kind of connective tissue to this series of programs for Book to Action. And I just want to let you know that this program has been recorded, and it will be available on our YouTube page at youtube.com/SantaCruzPL, where you will find a couple of other programs that we've had that have been recorded in this series, as well as many others. And after exploring the themes in the book and after this presentation, we really sincerely hope that you're inspired to act by getting involved with these different organizations and the Thriving Immigrants Collaborative. So I just thank you all and have a really wonderful night.
Thank you, everyone.